YouTube? This is Mars Gaming and welcome back to another ESO video. Today I wanted to talk about the Trainee set and why I believe it is one of the most powerful sets in this game, if not the most powerful resource set you can get in this game. And plus, it's very easy to get, which is good. It's really good. Now, this video is going to be more about commentary rather than just a straight up build video. This build is going to have this video is going to have three different builds that I've been working on, including this one. I'm going to really compare it to, I'm going to really give an analytic reason why this setup is one of the best sets in game. Now, so what is the Trainee set? It's one of the most basic sets you get in game. It's one of the first sets you can actually get in game from Balfour Inn, Stros Mackay, and I forgot the other location, Canarthy's Roost. So what is it? It's 2-piece adds max health, 3-piece adds max magicka, 4-piece adds max stamina, and the 5-piece adds all three at a higher value, which is really good, especially if you have a race that increases any of the max stats like Red Guard. This setup is great for any kind of race that increases max stats. It's good for a Breton, good for a Red Guard, good for an Orc, good for a High Elf, good for a Bosmer. It's good for everything because of that, if you're looking for max resources. And that's even what makes it even more flexible, because it can, once you get this setup, it comes in every single facet of armor piece and type of jewelry. It comes in light armor, heavy armor, medium. It comes in arcane, robust, and healthy jewelry. So this can even be ran as a tank. The only real originally this set was actually nerfed in the base game. It had its last pool reduced by 50%. So it was 2,500 resources, and you kind of see why the developers nerfed it so heavily, because it'd be too much. When you think about it, it's because really, let me show you the Red Guard passives, because I'm going on a tangent here. So really, the increased max stand by 10%, so that's going to scale with this. Not to mention, if you have the Undaunted passive, that's going to scale with that too. So really, you're double dipping into your resources no matter what. That's what makes this set so heavily strong. And like I was going on with my tangent, stamina, if you want to scale like your weapon damage, this also helps scale that, because whatever your maximum pool is and your weapon and your specific damage type, like for example, if you're a stamina based user, so you're doing physical damage and you have stamina, so the game is going to average out those two into your weapon damage. It's not going to do it on the tooltip, but you'll see it on the specific abilities that you're using. This also works in tandem with magicka. With magicka, it's wiser to scale max magicka rather than scaling weapon damage higher. You can do both, but you still have to maintain your sustain. I main a lot of DKs, so I have to focus more on sustain rather than just straight damage. You can do both, but right now I still have a learning curve I have to get ahead of. So on my magicka Dragon Knight, I try to scale my ability to mitigate damage, deal damage, and I try and keep my my magicka recovery really high, so I never have to go back to my resto bar. The less time I have to focus on my resto bar, or focus on maintaining, trying to get magic back, the better off I am, as well as trying to maintain a healthy amount of a healthy magicka pool at all times. And plus, having max pools gives you much more survivability. If I was running 7th Legion, I'd have to give to get something, but you can run 7th Legion with this build and still be very effective, just for the fact that it gives so much resources. I actually made a build that's somewhat like 7th Legion. I'll get to that in a few minutes, but first I want to stay on topic. First I'm going to show you my character sheet, and then I'm going to show you talk about the build's inflexibility. That's what I want to get on next. This is my character sheet unbuffed. So my max pools, my max magicka is about 15k, which is great. So I can make sure that I have my damage shields up, because if you're going up against magicka classes, You want those damage shields up. I run hardened armor as well as igneous shield to maintain my healing. Those two paired together is great. I have 20k max health. Some builds have more, but I focus primarily on this, on my sword and shield bar. Oh, I'm also using 3 hockey joes on the big pieces. I'm considering changing my chest piece to infuse just for a bit more resources on both, because with that it'll just increase exponentially for all stats. Really, this build performs very well when it has max pools. That's why I'm starting to like so much about it. And I have 37k stamina. With the blue food, if I can scale, I'm specifically running the lover. I could run blue food and take the lover out and put the serpent mundus for extra stamina recovery if I wanted to, just to maintain my stamina recovery, because if you're a Dragon Knight with low stamina recovery, your lifespan is going to be cut short unless you're really tanky, and you can generate ultimate very quickly. And also, I don't use a whole lot of monster sets unless I'm running a one piece like Domihas. This also goes in tandem with my setup, so I'm really stressing the max pools. I really am stressing the max pools. I'm planning on moving to oh, also for this specific build, which I'm going to get into in a second after I talk about its inflexibility, I'm either going to run Domihas or I'm going to run Mighty Chudon. I prefer those two because I either want max pools or I want more tankiness. And with Mighty Chudon, I can run a tri-stat glyph on infused and get more resources, just because I'll be tankier and have still somewhat close resources, and still maintain in long fights. Now I wanted to talk about Trainee's inflexibility. It's really the fact that it all comes in training. That's really it. If it came in any other trait rather than being a static trait, the developers knew exactly what they were doing when they nerfed this set, because no one uses it outside of leveling. That's primarily what it's used for, which is really bad. But they added Horns of the Reach, and with that patch, it came with the ability to transmute your traits on any type of gear or weapon, which really revitalized the set for me, really. Because I was thinking about using this a while back, like when I first started the game a year ago, and I never really thought about it until now. This set, that's really one of its own only inflexibilities is because of that. Now I want to get into the type of setups that I'm using. I'm focusing more on dot builds with my sorting board. These three builds that I'm gonna talk about is mainly for sorting board, because I wanted to focus more on sorting board. I've always used sorting board. This is my first character. I don't have any other stats other than two-handed and sorting board on this character for damage types, because this is mainly a tank type character, but I wanted to focus more on damage. So this is mainly a dot sorting board build. So I'm running 5-piece innate axiom, 5-piece trainee, and a 1-piece Domihas. Innate axiom feels really good because it gives you let me show you. It also offers max magicka and max stamina, plus spell crit, plus weapon crit, and adds spell damage and weapon damage to your class abilities. So this feels really good for this setup. Not to mention, I have purple stamina trainee rings, which were very cheap, by the way. I didn't pay over 2k for these each. Well, altogether it was about 3k. I only had to really pay for the kudas. This build was very cheap to throw together. I'm still upgrading everything. Still changing this last trait, or to change this trait here. Really, the damage is good. Oh, I'm also running a Oblivion enchant, since I'm put a lot into my Master at Arms abilities for the blue tree and the champion tree points. That scales Oblivion damage much higher. I think I have about 70 right now, and put a whole bunch of points into Blessed. I constantly make adjustments in my CP. The next build I wanted to talk about is one of the theory crafted builds I've been putting together. I call it the... Yes, it's this one. I call this one the... Let's see. What did I call it again? Oh, I do all my builds on ESO build editor, by the way. It's very easy to do. The Journeyman, yes, I call this one the Journeyman. This one kind of has a flex spot. I kind of use I use a 5-piece Trainee, 1 Chudon, 1 Molat Kina, all M-Pen. I use 3 agility jewelry, all weapon damage. And on the sorting board, this is the flex spot. I either use Hunting's Rage sorting board with the Nerdhorn sword, or I use a 2-piece. If I want to be tankier, I use a 2-piece Hisbark on the sorting board, and my back bar is the Master's Battle Axe, because I want that dot damage. I don't have a gap closer, so when I get in there, I'm using my Igneous Shield and my Hardened Armor to get me close. I go in with the bash with the reverb. I go in with the reverb, and then I go into a carve to put a heavy bleed on them and follow up my combos. So mainly I'm focusing on combos with my builds. I like this build because it's very simple and it kicks out a lot of damage. The next build, and I think this is the last build I was working on, I call this one the Pseudo 7th Legion, and I'll tell you why. It's a 5-piece Trainee and a 5-piece Barkskin. So basically, the stats for Barkskin are really similar to 7th Legion just because it gives you resources. So the first 2 pieces are max health. The 3rd piece is stamina recovery. The 4th piece is physical resistance. And the 5th piece is reduce the duration of immobilizations and snares applied to you by 50%. While an immobilization or snare is applied to you, you heal for 2100 health and restore 1000 stamina. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. So really, this is a very close equivalent to 7th Legion. Not to mention, it's going to reduce the amount of snares by 5%. I mean, not 5%, but 50%. And it has a cooldown of 5 seconds, which means you're always gonna get in a flood of resources when you get hit. So it functions similar to Heavy Armor's Constitution passive when it gives you stamina back, as well as giving you health, even though that the healing is going to be reduced to 1050. If you're a Dragon Knight, you're gonna get more healing just by default because of your initial, not just by your initial weapon damage, but your abilities, like holding onto Hardened Armor and getting lucky to having Igneous Shield up at the right time. It'll increase it by 35%, 30% if with diminishing values. I think it's going to be about 28%. So I'm running I'm running Barkskin sword and board on this bar just to maintain the 5-piece, and on the back bar it's a Barkskin Battle Axe. Also stressing the dots on this build as well. I don't have a Magicka build built for this yet because I'm not sure what I want to do with it. But if anything, this setup, the innate axiom set, also works well with this. But I'm doing something different with this. I'm doing innate axiom with the impregnable set on my Magicka DK right now. That's something I'm working on. I don't use a whole lot of monster sets on my builds unless I'm actually building it towards that. I focus primarily on combos. Also, maximizing this set's viability is getting the Undaunted passive. Like I said before, the Undaunted passive really maximizes the ability of this type of setup, just for the sheer fact that it gives max stats. I plan on getting a light Domihas. Excuse me. I'm planning on getting a light Domihas or switching this out for a light Chudon. I'll still maintain the same amount of stats as well as getting more resistance from the passive if I run a light Chudon. I won't get as much defense with the light shoulder plate unless if I get a light actually I think I got a medium shoulder just yesterday, so if I'm gonna change that out, I'm gonna make that the medium shoulder, and I'm gonna make the belt light just for the fact that the belt offers the least amount of resistance. So really I'll be min-maxing in the defensive department since I'm already running a heavy chest plate. Stressing the Undaunted passive for this setup will make you have so much more resource pools. It'll be insane. Now I will also link the builds in the video on the build editor to show you the max stats, the max pools, and everything. I'll show you. I'll leave those in the description of at the bottom of the video. Also, I wanted to The person who gave me the first idea about this setup was Christopher ESO. I just wanted to put him out there because he is an awesome ESO player and content creator. I love his videos. He really gave me the idea for this setup. I constantly try and consume information and excrete it so I can put it back out there. Also, I wanted to say thank you for watching. I'm going to put a few clips, and I also wanted to say I'm still very new to this game. I've been here a year, but I still feel like I'm so new to this game, and I love it. I started playing Elder Scrolls on Skyrim, and then I played Oblivion, and now I'm here. I've always wanted to play this game. I know I'm not the best player in the world. I know my gameplay isn't the most enthralling, but I'm still very happy that people watch my content. It means the world to me, and I'm super happy to be a part of this community. All I want to say is thanks again, and have a great day.